They say time heals, but those who say that have never felt a blade twist in their back. They've never laid in the dark with silence as their only witness and pain as their only companion. Time doesn't heal. It sharpens the steel. It polishes the wound until it burns clean. Cold, unforgettable. The world looks at you and says, move on. Smile. Forgive. As if betrayal is something soft. As if the fire in your chest has an expiry date. But they don't know that some fires never die. They just burn quieter, hotter, deeper. You learn to wear the mask, to smile like nothing's bleeding inside, to laugh when your soul is screaming. You shake hands, you play roles, but behind the quiet eyes, there's a storm no one can hear. Behind every nod, there's a battle only you know. And behind every I'm fine, there's a war that doesn't end. They think you're bitter, but they don't understand. Bitterness is not the beginning, it's the scar. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it reshapes. It tears the softness from your soul. It carves new lines into your silence. It takes the boy who trusted and buries him deep beneath the ashes. And from that grave, something else begins to breathe. This isn't just pain. This is the birth of a different creature. Not softer, not kinder, but colder, sharper, focused. The world doesn't notice when this happens because it's not loud, it's quiet, like the moment before a storm tears the sky apart. There comes a night when no one checks on you anymore. No messages, no hands, no warmth, just the sound of your own breathing and the weight of everything you've lost pressing against your ribs. That's when you learn. No one is coming. No one's going to pull you out of the fire. You'll either burn to nothing or become something the fire can't consume. I remember that silence. I remember how it tasted, like iron and ash. I remember staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was it, if this was all I'd ever be. A ruin, a forgotten name, a cracked reflection. But something strange happens in the quiet. When the noise of the world fades, you start to hear something else. A sound beneath the pain. Low, rising. Your own voice. Not the weak one, not the broken one, but the one that has been buried beneath years of pretending. The one that doesn't ask permission anymore, and it whispers. No more. No more begging for closure. No more seeking mercy from those who shattered you. No more playing dead. This is not the story of staying broken. This is the forge. This is the birthplace of something dangerous. The pain they left you with becomes the steel that builds your throne. You stop expecting apologies. You stop waiting for justice. You stop clinging to the idea that people will become who they promise to be. You look in the mirror and you meet the version of yourself that never needed saving. They call it bitterness, but I call it rebirth. A fire doesn't apologize for burning, and neither will I. I was not healed. I was tempered. The burn they left inside me, it doesn't fade. It fuels every step, every breath, every rise. And one day, they will look at me again, but they won't see the man they broke. They'll see what their betrayal created. Something they can't touch, can't hurt, can't stop. I am not here to be understood. I am here to rise from ruin, from silence, from the ashes they buried me in. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the fire that never goes out. The night they left me burning was the night I learned how to become the flame. There's a moment in every man's story where something dies quietly inside him. No screams, no goodbyes, just silence. The world keeps spinning, the sun keeps rising, and no one notices the funeral happening inside your chest. No one sees the light flicker out in your eyes, because you still show up. You still smile. You still breathe. But the man they once knew is gone. This is the kind of death that doesn't make a sound. It doesn't wear black. It doesn't invite anyone to mourn. It happens when the weight gets too heavy, and you stop fighting to explain it. When you realize no one really listens. They only nod, wait for their turn to speak, and go back to their world where your pain doesn't exist. You learn to swallow storms without trembling, to bury every scream beneath your ribcage, to carry what no one will help you lift. You master silence, not as peace, but as armor. There was a time when I thought silence was weakness, when I believed speaking would make them care. But then came the night when my voice shattered against their indifference, and the silence I once feared became my sanctuary. People love you when you shine. They disappear when you bleed. They call you strong when you smile. But they look away when your hands shake. And in that cold, in that void, something shifts. You stop asking for help. You stop explaining your pain. You stop fighting to be seen, because you understand. The world doesn't save men like you. It buries them. And only those who learn to rise alone survive. You begin to walk through life like a ghost. Not weak, just done. Done with pretending. Done with begging to be understood. Done with handing your soul to hands that only know how to drop it. But here's the truth no one tells you. In silence, something grows. Not kindness, not hope, but steel. The man who once feared the dark learns to breathe in it. The boy who once wanted to be saved learns to build his own walls. And the heart that once bled for others starts beating for itself. There's a kind of power that only comes from dying once and choosing to come back colder. You stop seeking warmth from the world. You become your own fire, your own fortress, your own kingdom. You learn to walk alone without feeling lost. Because what broke you also freed you. They call it loneliness. I call it the forge. The place where I learned to sharpen my soul. The place where weakness was stripped away. The place where the noise faded and only truth remained. The truth is, pain teaches clarity. When everything is taken from you, you finally see who you are without it. You stop being a reflection of their expectations. You become the reflection of your scars. I died in silence once, but death didn't bury me. It carved me. It stripped away everything soft, everything fragile, everything that could be broken again. And what rose wasn't the same man. They will say I changed. They will say I became distant, cold, unreachable. They're right, because the man who begged for love is gone. The man who trusted shadows is gone. The man who believed in forever is gone. I didn't lose myself. I killed the version that couldn't survive this world, and I buried him deep in the silence they left me in. I don't mourn him, because from his ashes, I built someone they can never break again. This is not sadness. This is rebirth through quiet war. I don't speak much anymore, because my silence carries a weight words can't. It's not emptiness, it's focus. They think they left me alone, but they only gave me the greatest gift. Myself, unfiltered, unmasked, unforgiving. The man who died in silence was never meant to stay dead. He was meant to rise, but not as the boy they betrayed, as the storm they can no longer control. It's always the ones you trusted, the hands you held without fear, the faces you believed were safe, the voices that whispered promises in the dark. It's always them. Strangers can't break you. Only the familiar can. Because only they know where your armor is thin. Only they know where the knife fits best. I remember their eyes. Calm, convincing, loyal. At least that's what I thought. And then I remember the blade, sliding in like it belonged there. Not loud, not violent, just quiet, like betrayal always is. They smiled when they broke me. They looked me in the eye while they twisted the steel. And the worst part? I didn't fight back. I trusted them. I let them cut. And I bled for people who never would have bled for me. Betrayal is not a scream. It's a whisper in the dark. A hand on your shoulder right before the fall. It's the moment you realize the person standing beside you was the one who pushed. They didn't just hurt me. They taught me. They taught me what loyalty really means. They taught me how dangerous softness can be. They taught me that trust isn't a gift. It's a loaded gun. I used to think betrayal was a wound, but it's more than that. It's a mirror. It shows you who they are and who you must become. I learned not to raise my voice, not to explain, not to chase. I let their actions write their names in fire, and I burned those names into the stone of my memory. Make no mistake, betrayal doesn't create monsters, it reveals kings. Because the man who survives being stabbed in the back learns to walk through life with a blade in his hand, not to hurt the innocent, but to remind the world, I will never be their victim again. The sweetness of their lies still lingers in my mouth, like honey laced with poison. They told me they cared. They told me they'd stay. They told me forever, right before they left. I don't hate them. Hate would mean I still care. I remember them. I remember every word, every promise, every dagger disguised as love, every smile that hid the storm behind it. Betrayal changed the way I breathe, the way I walk, the way I trust. It sharpened me. It turned me into something they never saw coming. I stopped giving people the power to kill me twice. The first time was on them. The second time would be on me. And I refuse to die for hands that once left me bleeding. I see betrayal now for what it is. A lesson carved in scar tissue. A teacher with cruel hands. But it teaches well. It teaches fast. It taught me that words mean nothing. Patterns mean everything. That people who love you in daylight can burn you in the night. That trust without proof is suicide. And that silence is sometimes louder than truth. They forged my darkness with their betrayal. They made me colder, sharper, faster, and I thank them for it. Not with forgiveness, with distance, with the empire I built without them, with the Fiapatisi, silence that screams louder than revenge. They expected me to crawl, I walked. They expected me to break, I built. They expected a man begging to be saved. They got a king who saved himself. You see, betrayal isn't the end of the story. It's the spark. It's the moment the weak man dies and the dangerous man opens his eyes. I don't need to swing the blade. I became it. I don't need to scream my rage. I carry it like a crown. Every scar is a signature. Every wound a reminder, every memory a torch in the dark. One day they will remember what they did, not because I came for them, but because when they look at what I became, they'll see their fingerprints all over it. This isn't vengeance, this is evolution. They taught me war without even knowing it. They taught me how to survive their kind. They taught me how to never need them again. And now, when I walk past their shadows, they flinch because they know the man who once begged them to stay has become the storm they can't stop. This is what betrayal does. It does not destroy kings. It crowns them. They thought they buried me, but they didn't know I was a seed. Betrayal was the fire, pain was the soil, silence was the water. And in the darkness they left me in I grew. This isn't the story of a man who healed. This is the story of a man who became unbreakable. I stopped waiting for the world to understand me. I started building a world that didn't need them. The night I finally accepted that no one was coming, that was the night I was born again. Not softer, not weaker, but forged. In the furnace of everything they thought would kill me. Every betrayal became a brick. Every silence became cement. Every scar became architecture. And I built a kingdom inside my chest. One where no one can pull me apart again. I no longer chase. I no longer beg. I no longer explain. Because a king doesn't ask for a throne. He builds it. When the pain stopped being a weight, it became a weapon. A blade carved from fire and silence. I wield it with precision, not to destroy others, but to guard the man I have become. I started walking differently, standing differently, breathing differently, because something inside me shifted. The boy who trusted blindly died, and the man who trusts himself rose. Pain didn't leave, it transformed. It became fuel. Every heartbeat whispers, never again. Never again will I hand my soul to those who don't deserve it. Never again will I beg for love from mouths that feed on loyalty but starve it in return. Never again will I bow to hands that once dropped me. I learned to carry my silence like armor. Not emptiness, discipline, not coldness, control. I became a fortress they can't enter, not because I built higher walls, but because I burned the gate they once walked through. The world sees the surface, a man calm, collected, unreadable. They don't see the storms beneath that calm. They don't hear the roars buried under this silence. But I do. And that's all that matters. This is what transformation looks like. It's not loud. It's not pretty. It's quiet, ruthless, surgical. It's the moment you stop needing them to understand the fire you carry. When you've been burned enough, you stop fearing the flames. You become them. Untouchable, unapologetic. They called me bitter. They called me cold. They called me dangerous. And they were right. But they'll never understand. This danger wasn't born out of hate. It was born out of clarity. Clarity that loyalty isn't a language everyone speaks. Clarity that love without depth is poison. Clarity that when everything falls, you are all you have. I stopped searching for home in other people. I became it, solid, unshakable, a throne carved from everything they tried to break. Do you know what power feels like after pain? It's not rage, it's silence. Cold, heavy, grounded. It's the moment you look at everything that tried to kill you. And don't even flinch. They gave me pain. I turned it into a kingdom. They gave me silence. I turned it into armor. They gave me betrayal. I turned it into the crown they will one day kneel before. This is not revenge. This is rebirth. The world thought they ended me, but they only ended their access to me. I am not the man who fell. I am the man who rose without witnesses, who rebuilt himself in the dark while they laughed, while they slept, while they forgot. And now, I walk with the quiet of someone who owes no one an explanation. No apologies, no softness, just weight. The kind of weight that only comes from surviving hell and learning to rule it. This is the part where the pain becomes your ally, where every scar becomes a banner, where every wound becomes a warning, where every heartbeat becomes a war drum. I am not bitter. I am reborn. And that is far more dangerous, because the man who seeks revenge is predictable, but the man who rises in silence cannot be stopped. They said I'd never rise again. They whispered it like a curse, but they didn't understand. I wasn't trying to rise. I was becoming something they could never touch again. There's a point where pain no longer bends you. It hardens you. It carves its initials into your bones and says, you belong to no one now. And that's when you stop crawling. You stop hiding. You stop being the man they left in the ashes. You stand, not as the boy who trusted, not as the man who broke, but as the king who was forged in fire. I rose from the same ground they tried to bury me under. I built my throne from the debris they left behind. Every piece of pain became part of the empire. Every betrayal became mortar between stone. Every silence became a blade on my hip. I wear my pain like a crown, not because I love what happened, but because it reminds me of what I survived. A crown of ashes still burns. I walk with the weight of a man who's been through hell and learned to make the flames bow. When the storm returned, I didn't run. I opened my arms to it because the storm was mine now. They don't understand. The man who's lived in the fire no longer fears it. I no longer move with desperation. I move with intention. Every step is heavier. Every glance is sharper. Every silence carries the echo of everything they tried to break. The victim is dead. The weak is gone. The forgotten has risen. And he does not ask permission to rule. There's a violence in calm men, a quiet that unsettles the loud, because nothing is more dangerous than a man who has already burned and learned to build inside the fire. I no longer seek their validation. I no longer need their mercy. I am the storm they prayed I'd never become. They called me bitter. They called me heartless. They called me cold. And for the first time, they were right. Because kings don't apologize for the darkness that made them. Power isn't a throne. It's a presence. It's when you walk into a room and the air itself knows it can't shake you. Because you've already been broken once, and everything after that is just noise. They once looked down on me. Now they look up. They once spoke my name with mockery. Now they speak it with quiet. Because real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream. It arrives. And when it does, everything shifts. This rise wasn't built on mercy. It was built on memory, on the faces of those who watched me fall, on the silence of those who didn't care, on the fire of the man they tried to erase. And now I walk like a storm in flesh. No hesitation, no weakness, no leash. They wanted me to break. Instead, they handed me the blueprint of my empire, and I built it stone by stone, while they were busy celebrating my funeral. The rise isn't loud, it's steady, unstoppable, like a tide that doesn't ask permission to drown what stands in its way. I don't chase shadows anymore. I cast them. I don't run from storms. I command them. I don't wear scars as pain. I wear them as proof. Proof that I've walked through everything meant to end me, and came back wearing it like armor. I look at my reflection now. I don't see the broken man. I see the monarch of his own ruin. A man who didn't need saving. A man who rose alone. And here's the thing about rising. Those who betrayed you will always remember the sound of your silence more than the sound of your pain. Because silence from a man who was once loyal is louder than war. Every night I spent bleeding became the dawn they could not control. Every tear became a torch. Every wound became a wall. And now they stand outside what they once owned. This crown of ashes isn't fragile. It's made of fire and memory. They can't touch it. They can't take it. They can only watch as the man they underestimated becomes the king they'll never reach again. I didn't need to prove anything to them. I only needed to rise. Not to be loved, not to be welcomed, but to be feared. The rise of a broken man isn't poetic. It's surgical. It's relentless. It's silent. Until it's not. And when it roars, the world listens. I am no longer who they hurt. I am what their betrayal created. I didn't return as the man they left behind. That man is gone. He died quietly in the dark. And what rose from his grave is something else entirely. They said I'd come crawling. They said I'd come begging. But kings don't crawl. Kings rise. When you've walked through hell long enough, you stop asking for the way out. You build your throne right in the middle of the flames. And then you make the fire kneel. They thought they took everything from me, but they only freed me from illusions, freed me from the need to be understood, freed me from the weakness of waiting for someone to save me. I was never their enemy. I was their mirror, but they couldn't stand to look at what they created, so they betrayed me. And in doing so, they gave me the greatest weapon of all, clarity. I don't want their forgiveness. I don't need their hands, their names, are less than ashes to me now. I carry no crown of gold. Mine is made of fire and ruin. A crown they can't steal, can't touch, can't wear. Because it was forged in my pain, not their mercy. I move through this world with a weight they will never know. Every scar is a mark of war. Every silence is a victory. Every breath is a rebellion against the grave they dug for me. This is the part where the villain stands, not out of hatred, but out of sovereignty. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a man who owns his darkness instead of running from it. They called me broken. They called me bitter. But they'll call me king before this story ends. Do you know what power feels like when it's real? It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It commands. Power isn't loud. It's the silence that follows your name. It's the way the air shifts when you enter a room. It's the look in their eyes when they realize the man they betrayed isn't coming back because he became the storm. I carry their betrayal like a blade strapped to my spine, not to strike blindly, but to remind myself who I am now, what I've become, what I will never be again. This is not vengeance. This is ascension, a rise carved out of war, a kingdom built without mercy, a crown that burns everything false around it. They will whisper my name in rooms I'll never walk into. They will feel my silence louder than their laughter ever was. Because I am not their memory, I am their reminder, the monarch of his own ruin. The king who rose where no one thought he could. The one who buried his past beneath his own footsteps. I don't need to roar for them to hear me. Because the world listens when power doesn't ask to be understood. It simply is. This is the final stage of transformation. The storm doesn't rage anymore. It rains. I stand at the edge of everything they once called broken, and I build from it, not for them, not to prove anything, but because that's what kings do. They create empires out of ashes, and if the world burns around me, so be it. I've lived in fire. I've worn it like a second skin. I do not fear it. I am it. They should have killed me when I was soft, when I still believed in their promises. But they didn't. They left me alive. And in doing so, they sealed their fate. I don't look back anymore. There's nothing there. Only ghosts. Only echoes. Only the shadows of those who thought they could break me. But shadows can't touch a man who walks in his own darkness. This is the throne they never saw coming. The rise they thought was impossible. The fire they can't control. I am not a hero. I'm not trying to be. Heroes die waiting for the world to love them. But kings build their own world and watch it bow. This is my ruin, my fire, my throne, my silence. And from it, I will carve a legacy that even their betrayal can't erase. And now, the fire is quiet, not gone, just tamed. It no longer burns me, it builds me. This is the part they never expected to witness. They thought the story would end with me broken, forgotten, buried beneath the weight of their betrayal. But here I stand. Not bitter, not shattered, but reborn. They will never understand what it costs to rebuild yourself from nothing. They will never understand the kind of silence that reshapes a man, because most people never return from that kind of darkness. But I did, not as who I was, as who I was meant to be. I carry the fire differently now. It doesn't roar, it glows. It lives behind my eyes, in every breath, in every step. It's no longer pain, it's power. And I've learned something cruel and beautiful. You don't rise when the world believes in you. You rise when no one does. You rise when it's just you and the echo of your own will. That's when legends are born, not in applause, but in silence. They thought I would spend my life chasing closure, chasing answers, chasing the past. But I don't need it, because I closed the door myself. I buried the boy they betrayed. I crowned the man they can't control. I no longer seek apologies. I no longer seek justice, because the greatest revenge is simple. I became everything they swore I'd never be. And now, I owe them nothing. Not my pain, not my story, not my forgiveness, nothing. This is what rebirth feels like. Not soft, not gentle. It's quiet, it's cold. It's the kind of stillness that makes the world hold its breath. When they see me now, they don't recognize me, because they're still looking for the version they broke. But that version is gone. He died the night I stopped begging to be saved. What stands before them now is a king born of silence. A storm that learned to reign instead of rage. I am not angry anymore. I am inevitable. Betrayal gave me the fire. Pain gave me the steel. Silence gave me the crown. And I gave myself the throne. I walk alone now, not because I'm lost, because I finally know the weight of walking as a whole. No more searching, no more needing, no more explaining, just presence. And that is what terrifies them the most. Not my voice, not my power, my silence. Because a man who has mastered his own ruin cannot be controlled. This world will remember me. Not because I shouted, but because I stood when everything tried to break me. Because I built an empire out of their ashes. Because I wore my scars like a crown and never looked back. This isn't about revenge. It's about becoming untouchable. Not in body, in soul. They can take everything, but they will never take me again. That is my victory. That is my throne. That is my legacy. And when the night grows quiet, when the echoes fade, I stand alone in the ruins, but I do not tremble. I belong here. This is where I was reborn. I'm not bitter. I'm the fire they left behind, and the crown they'll never wear.